It'll get there.
It's going. Welcome everybody to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. This is a live YouTube streaming video podcast about Star Wars, and I'm messing up my copy.
It's by Star Wars.
But for Star Wars fans, by Star Wars fans, blah blah blah. Well, today we're going to be discussing the new trilogies of Tron.
The Tron.
Yes, the Tron trilogies.
Motherfucker. I misspelled the word. All right, people.
And he did it like a week ago, and we just caught it right as we hit records. That's how it goes, right?
Oh,
that's how
man.
it goes.
It's just, there's the H, and it's just right there, and I missed it.
Well, I mean, it's understandable because his, like, actually pronouncing his full myth name is very, Chiss name is very, it'll tie your tongue.
It's, okay, I'm going to get it right now. Mithron Nuodo?
Nope.
Mithranon Naruto.
So I loved listening to these on
the
audiobook because you'd have the back and forth of him and, spoiler, Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
And just every time it's said the exact same way. He's like, nope, that's not it. Just call me Thrawn. Just call me Thrawn.
He's like, come on now. You're really making an ass out of yourself. Just Thrawn. Just the core name. That's all you need.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the, I don't even know if it's interesting at all, but one of the notes that I personally found interesting was that was not his original name, and that the entire Chiss culture, your name depends on the family that you're in. Sort of like the Christian name and then the family name that we have in our cultures. I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah. Well, and also part of his being, and I mean, we get into this in the latter books, but part of his name also being a specialty title from a different family.
Yeah.
Which that was
the Odo ending part.
Yeah.
I feel like a better ending would be, I don't know. You want to give someone like a nice little like punch at the end, like you did a great job, Odo. I don't know.
I mean, whatever. They're aliens. You got to forgive them.
Yeah. We look down on all other species. Like, they're aliens. What do they know, really?
Exactly.
They've been around for millions of years. They're aliens. What are they going to do?
Yeah, no, they clearly need to be civilized by the rest of us.
Yeah. Welcome to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders, people. This is our monthly podcast. Now that the Book of Boba Fett's over and we have days to go before Obi-Wan Kenobi's gracing our presence again. I can't tell you how excited I am about that.
I don't even give a shit if it's any good.
Ewan McGregor.
I'm just excited.
Bring him back in any form possible. I just watched Train Spotting, and if I don't get some sort of like heroin reference, I'm going to be pissed.
That's fair.
It's got to be. First of all, Boba Fett had a clear peyote experience. So why shouldn't Renton have a fucking peyote experience too? If Danny Boyle does not direct one of these episodes, I'm gonna be pissed.
Needs to be Danny Boyle and Mike Flanagan.
That would be dope.
Those two have
drug-fueled nightmares.
Yeah,
that'd be so good.
Oh my god. The peyote episode, the two of those co-directed.
Yes. Oh man,
we need that episode.
That'd be amazing. Okay. Wow. I don't know how to talk about this episode, to be honest.
This is going to be a difficult one. I mean, I like you. It's I guess I shouldn't speak for both of us, but when it comes to books, I'm usually reading like 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah.
And like I go through at least 2 or 3 a month, like at the very least. So. Yeah. I will be super excited about a series. And I'm like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. And then next thing I know, I'm reading vampire books. So everything just kind of gets pushed aside because I'm really not that smart. But I think we could pretty much cover the basic idea of these books.
For sure.
Let's just get this out in the open right now. If you're a fan of Heir to the Empire or really just any Timothy Zahn pre-Disney books, don't expect that with these. Especially with the first trilogy, like Zahn even went on record as saying, "Yeah, they clipped my fucking balls."
Yeah, because he had a cartoon he had to cater to of all horrible fucking things. you say, hey, you know what? Bring your favorite character, the character that you wrote, that you created this entire fan base after, and you know what? Just make sure it doesn't conflict with this cartoon. All right,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Such a shame.
And you can't help but think he brought up this really wonderful antagonist species of the Grix, and yet we can't know anything about them after the second trilogy. We still don't know shit about them.
Yeah. We have 6 fucking books and still nothing.
And the most important part to note is that they were the threat in all 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were the underlying background. You want to talk about Phantom Menace? They were that for this entire 2 trilogies.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even that, but even because of these trilogies, like, we now know that that's what Palpatine was trying to prepare for prior to his demise. Yeah. Because he knew, because of Thrawn and, you know, all that shit going on, that was what was coming to the current galaxy. So, like, I hope that it's going to be brought up when all of the shit comes to a spearhead.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know.
There's no way. There's no way they reference it. It's going to be the worst letdown ever. Just like every Aftermath novel, you know, we got little tiny hints about, oh, they were paying attention. They give us a little bit of a little tasty taste, and we're like, oh, you love us still. This is great. Mm-hmm. And then when they actually, you know, come time for like deliver us Grisk, and they're like, I don't really feel like it. How about we do a Finn show? You out of your fucking mind? Who gives a fuck about Finn? Give me some Grisk. Like, give me some threats to the goddamn galaxy, not some bumbling asshole trying to fucking tell Rey that he feels the Force. Fuck, for 3 films. Ugh.
Yeah, and it went nowhere.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking about Thrawn. Okay, so.
Yeah, so let's start with this first book, which is just aptly named Thrawn.
Yeah. Well, can we quick take a step back, because Thrawn in the extended universe is sort of the EU that all of us knew as Star Wars, you know, growing up. Like, that was everything that happened after Return of the Jedi, for all intents and purposes, for years, was Thrawn. You know, he was the big baddie, the military genius, this alien that operated in a human military that should, by all accounts, never have fucking operated. And yet everyone feared and respected him. And of all reasons, he studied art to defeat his enemies.
Man, I get it. Like, anytime I go to a museum, I will just sit there and stare. And then I'm like, I know how I could take this motherfucker out now.
You're a better person.
I mean, it's always the same. You just stab him in the throat, but whatever. Right. I get it.
As a backup, we always have the throat stab. Always.
Yeah, like, and for someone like me, it's so disappointing the direction they went. And I mean, admittedly, I liked the books. I really did. I thought they were fun. But like, that's literally what drove me on this just kamikaze course of Star Wars fandom, was the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Yeah. I mean, of course, I'd always been a fan of the movies, because, I mean, who the fuck isn't? You're weird if you're not. Yeah. But it wasn't until then that's when I'm like, holy fuck, I need to just know everything. And that's when I started obsessing over the books, obsessing over the comics. Like, this was my gateway drug.
Whoa. So
for it to just be kind of like, hey, here's some books that might mean something or might not. It's like, why'd you do that?
That's the most frustrating part of it. And can you imagine being Timothy Zahn? Like, hey, we want you to bring back your most famous author, I don't know, literary character you've ever crafted and is beloved by millions. But here's every stipulation. So you have to try to, like, bob and weave in this tiny little narrative hole in order to define this new version of a character that you've already established and is already known. Like, how frustrating must that have been for him?
Right.
But then to have, and I can't tell if this is just Disney trying to go the standard Star Wars way, or if it's just the natural course that it took. But the original Thrawn trilogy was very much in, this is Thrawn meeting the Empire for the first time, which we actually never got in the original novels, becoming Grand Admiral Thrawn, but then ending with the ending we saw in Rebels, which was disappointing and fucking childish and dumb.
Yeah.
Carted off by space whales. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
Very cocoon of you.
I like Gojira just as much as the next guy, so I just
If
kind of
it
let
were Gojira, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
But space whales? And then Ezra Bridger doing his fucking hoodly doodly with this. I don't know. The whole thing just rubbed me the wrong way like that. When the Bendu got involved in that assault on Lothar.
Mm-hmm. Lothal.
Whatever. Thrawn, Thong. I don't know. I don't know how to spell.
Whatever.
Don't expect me to be able to speak it.
We're American, goddammit. We don't need to know how to
whatever
spell
I say, damn it. I'm white. What do you want? What the fuck am I talking about? It was insulting to have this, and it made sense, right? Like, it's this force-wielding entity. No one really understands what the fucking Bendu is or how the force works, and the Chiss certainly don't fully grasp what it is. And part of what I really appreciated, as much as that sort of brought me down, how did Thrawn get defeated by this sort of force entity? It sort of brought it back around with this new Ascendancy trilogy, because it is heavily focused, even though it's like a beeline story, on the Force and the different forms the Force takes. And I really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about those different forms? I mean, the first novel, and arguably all of them, are really just focused on their Skywalkers, which are, they're small. It's like a Jerry Epstein novel. There's just a bunch of little kids that just take them places.
I mean, hey, they're treated like royalty until they're 13, and then they're kicked the fuck out.
Yeah, because then you're too old.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird, right?
Yeah, it's a little odd. Whatever. I liked it because, it does give us an aspect of the Force that we don't traditionally get.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, of course, in the Legends, like, we got a whole lot of different shit, like different aspects, and an understanding that the Force isn't light side, dark side. The Force is a spectrum.
Right.
It's cool to get a different one. Oh man, I almost went into a different book. Just kidding, because I've been reading the High Republic, which I don't recommend anybody reads. Which you'll get a review at some point from me. Trust me. Once I can wrap my brain around it. Like, we just get a different aspect of it, and that's fun.
Yeah,
I guess.
I genuinely think it is. Like, I loved the whole the what if Luke Skywalker tales stories that came out of him sort of exploring different cultures and how those different cultures, interpreted the Force. And we saw that in the Clone Wars, and we saw that in Rebels. And I actually really, really appreciate that stuff. What always struck me as strange is this idea that these Chiss females, and only select few of them, are innately connected to the Force, and then they lose it at a certain age because of menstruation. Like, as soon as
that's kind of my understanding, is once they become an adult, is once it goes away.
All right. So,
and I really did like the aspect of showing just the pure desperation and horror of becoming an adult in that culture when you are a Skywalker, because you're essentially like a sacred being. Like, you're worshipped. You're above the, like, pretty much everybody but the captain of the ship, like, that you're piloting. So like, to go from having that kind of power and essentially being doted over constantly to being like, oh fuck, I can totally pretend I know where I'm going now. Don't kick me out. I don't want to go to school. Like, it showed some desperation. I did appreciate that.
So this is something that always struck me as strange. And as I'm reading these novels, it is just sort of hammering it home a little bit more each time. But I can't remember any other novel ever delving into one singular species cultural experience as much as Timothy Zahn did with the Chiss in the Ascendancy trilogy. In any, like, human, Ilthorian, Twi'lek, Rhodian, like, no other culture was given the time and the patience and the depth of the Chiss. And ironically, it's the one species that is never really talked about in any other medium than literary.
Well, I mean, we did get that in a lot of the Clone Wars novels with the Night Sisters. Don't ask me what novels, because off the top of my head I can't think of them.
Right.
But there were a lot that really delved into the mysticism of the Night Sisters, and
there was some
their
good
whole
stuff.
religion
I don't
stuff.
think it was to the level that we got with the Chiss.
Man,
But
I would argue that, because I don't really feel like we got too much with the Chiss.
What?
Yeah, like
with this trilogy? What?
The only thing we got was the Skywalkers. Like, we didn't get anything else with anybody else. That's just one.
We got tons of different families, like the 9 and the 40, and then we got the.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with like their force sensitivities and stuff.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. I was not talking about specifically
like
the force
sensitivity
right?
Stuff. But yeah, no,
you are right.
Got a huge breakdown. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just talking about the culture itself of the people of the Chiss. Like, we've never really had that breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the force goes, you're absolutely right, 100%. I did find it very interesting that we spent so much time breaking down political and social dynamics of this culture that we've never and probably will never see on screen to the depth that it's being delved out.
Mm-hmm.
But you can always tell an author who has passion that's willing to really go to those places, and you got to go to the grandfather. J.R.R. Tolkien goes to insane depths in order to flesh out his world, and you got to tip your cap to that. Zahn did a pretty damn good job with that. I mean, so much so that you have to be a tongue-tied fucking person to even speak the goddamn words of the names.
Well, and that is the one thing, like, out of the two trilogies, like the first one, it was fun. I liked it, but it was also like in one ear out the other. With the Ascendancy, that was like pure Timothy Zahn, like world building, character building, tradition building. Like, that trilogy could have been expanded. I mean, it could still be expanded, like,
it probably will be,
infinitely. Like, there's no end to it. Like, just because it was based around Thrawn doesn't mean that it was it couldn't keep going on.
That's what I loved about it. We were introduced to so many really great Chiss, not just characters, but heroes, characters that hated each other, but still in the end worked with each other because it was the greater good that they were working towards. That sort of Saturday morning cartoon thing where He-Man teams up with Skeletor to defeat some other unknown entity. That's what the Chiss were going through. And to understand why the Chiss hated Thrawn so much, that was one part of it that I never fully grasped. And before we dive into that really quick, I do want to sort of preface for people who may not have read both of these trilogies to understand that the first trilogy, it was just Star Wars Thrawn, and then Thrawn Alliances and Thrawn Treason. That trilogy was when they met the Empire, when Thrawn met the Empire, and all the way through to the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, which was just before A New Hope. So that's the first trilogy. The second trilogy, and I had mentioned earlier, sort of Star Wars fashion, was they did a prequel with the second trilogy, just like Star Wars did with them films. And the prequel was the most recent, which is the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. And it talks about Thrawn's rise to power in his own culture, in his own wild space area, and the threats that he faced there that he had spoken to in the first trilogy. And that's why when we're talking about the Grisk being this ever-present phantom menace in both trilogies, that's why they are ever-present and they are there. And Thrawn defeated them in the second trilogy, the prequel trilogy, one person, Jixtus, and his plans, but ultimately the Grisk threat is still very much out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, which I loved how they did that, because it felt a lot like the end of Fate of the Jedi with the new, or the separate Sith Empire, and it's just like, oh my god, they could go so far with this if they wanted to, but it was also so disappointing, because it's like, as soon as you get to the end, like, where it's going, because it starts where the first book or it ends where the first book starts. Which it was fun until it's like, god damn it, it's going nowhere.
Well, that's the most frustrating part, is that so the first trilogy which again parallels Thrawn's introduction to the Empire and his rise in the Empire until the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon series. Is that trilogy great because of the people he's around? Because he interacts with the Emperor, because he interacts with Anakin Skywalker, because he interacts with Darth Vader and Padme Amidala. Like, is the first trilogy great because of the people he's around and the world he's in, rather than him?
Yes, I would say so, and that's so disappointing because he as a character is just he's one of the most complex characters in the whole Star Wars saga. At least I'd fucking argue that. Like, he's a genius, a misunderstood genius. And yeah, like looking over this, like even with the first one, the show notes are talking about Ensign Elivanto. Yep. That character was great.
Yeah.
And to have him like go subversive with the Chiss along with Thrawn and end up becoming an honorary Chiss with name and everything. Yeah. Like, that character was fucking phenomenal. And he actually overshadowed Thrawn sometimes. And it was like, that's not how this is supposed to work. What the fuck?
I mean, that's part of the strength to the writing, though, right? Is that rather than focusing on one character and giving all the dimension to that one character, and we spoke to this a little bit ago, there's so many different characters that are built up in so many different ways that it creates this entire world that you just want to be involved in. Mm-hmm. I remember after reading the first novel, my reaction to you was, this feels like Star Trek. And, you know, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And arguably, I still kind of feel that way. But there are so many elements that make me want it.
You're speaking to Ascendancy, right?
Yeah.
It totally did. Ascendancy felt vastly different than any other Star Wars like trilogy that I've read thus far.
Yeah. It's tough because it's all just spaceship oriented. You know, you're getting this in-depth look at this new culture that has really been absent for the majority of all of Star Wars history, including the EU, because they never went into that stuff. But then introducing all these new threats, but then still sort of throwing in dashes and pinches of existing alien cultures. And, you know, we get a little bit of core world visitation and stuff for technology, and Anakin Skywalker thrown in for good measure. But ultimately, it doesn't really feel like Star Wars up until the second novel, when they really start digging into the Force through the Maggies, which is this creature who, what's this alien shaman, ostensibly, that is ready to allow her entire species to die and join the Force in order to propagate the next generation of her people, which is so foreign to all of the Chiss, and not just the Chiss, but all other aliens that are with the Chiss, that they actually go out of their way to support and stop her from doing that very thing, which is a very part of her culture. Do you think that we're ever going to see any sort of payout to that? Because in the first Ascendancy novel, we're introduced to this, you know, the earliest Chiss stories that we get, which is Thrawn Ascendancy. I'm looking for the name of the novel here. Chaos Rising, which is the Nick Ardoon dynasty being led by Yiv the Benevolent, coming in and threatening a bunch of people, including the Chiss Ascendancy themselves, which is just this group of this species that controls this portion of space.
Yeah, they're essentially the humanoid, or the humans of the Star Wars galaxy proper. Like, that's what they are. They're the core planets.
So they have little touches of the Force, as we already mentioned, with the people who actually pilot them through space, because they don't have set like light speed channels,
they don't have hyperspace lanes.
Hyperspace lanes, thank you.
Because well, I mean, it's the same reason why there wasn't a whole lot of exploration outside of the galaxy, outside of the outer rim into wild space, was because of the chaos, which that's what the Chiss calls the chaos, but the chaos of like all the meteors, black holes, and all that shit. So, you know, they have the Skywalkers to essentially like force navigate. So they are essentially in a trance and navigating just strictly through the Force until they can't.
So without them, they can do small jumps after they've plotted it and, taken into account all different space bodies and stuff, which I always thought was really interesting because we never had a scope of what that meant until we had like Tales of the Jedi, when they were literally fighting over hyperspace lanes and like crafting them for the first time in the Tales of the Jedi series comics, which was very interesting to me. Like, okay, that's how they got those hyperspace lanes and stuff, how they were able to use that technology to travel through space. This is setting up this world where they are high technology, but they just haven't advanced that portion of it yet because they've found this other means of doing it. So they had no other reason to do that. And like even stuff like shields for their ships, they never even thought of that much because
that was outside technology.
Yeah, as soon as they were introduced to Anakin Skywalker and the Empire, or the Republic at the time, they were like, "Whoa, what is this technology? This is weird." And it's just an interesting way of showing different cultures evolve technology at different rates based on the needs of the culture, which plays true to our own real lives, which I thought was a really nice little touch.
Yeah.
It would be very easy to just sort of play the Star Wars trope of, oh no, every culture has this technology because it exists in one realm, so it must exist in all. But no.
Yeah, no, that's bullshit. Like this was totally believable.
Yeah. I'm having trouble talking about these two trilogies because I want to talk about the prequels before the sequels, but then the sequel came first. And
well, to be honest, the sequel really, it's a light story. It's just the rise of Thrawn, which is exactly what you'd expect. It's just turmoil the entire fucking time. And I mean, it definitely plays out better doing Ascendancy first because of how it ends. So I'm fine with just talking backwards, going with Ascendancy and then going into Thrawn.
I do want to say that, okay, so I got to put a pin in that because I want to talk about the TIE Defenders being just a fan of the TIE Fighter video game series because that was a new twist on what that meant. And I love the argument that was being had between Thrawn and the Emperor saying, look, why are you worrying about these Death Stars? Those are ridiculous. Just do this spaceship technology and you can kill all fleets. You don't need a Death Star. And the Emperor was like, you don't know what you're talking about, sir. Certainly we need one massive blockbuster to kill everything.
Well, no, and it wasn't even Palpatine. It was fucking him and Tarkin fighting constantly. And Palpatine was just like basically jerking
whoever
off
wins.
Like, oh yeah, oh god, ooh, call each other sluts now. Like
ew. I bet he had to wash his robe a lot.
Oh, well, I mean that's why he wore a fucking robe, man. Yeah,
it's gross.
It is gross.
Fucking Palpatine's a slut.
He really is. I believe it.
Okay, so let's go back to the prequels. I was really stoked as soon as the Maggies came involved, and they were like, no, you can't do what your culture has always done because it does not fit with our sensibilities.
Yeah.
Of all the fucking arrogant shit that you could ever assume, and even for Thrawn in the moment, I was like, would he do that? He seems like such a student of cultural experience, and it like informs how he's going to militaristically take down cultures. Why would he then try to subvert that and force them to be his own?
All right, so I buy into that because the thing is, he looks at shit like chess. Like he's got to be at least 2 or 3 steps ahead of the other person.
Right.
So I totally believe that he would be like, no, you can't kill yourself, guy. Come on, let's figure this shit out, because he understands that obviously their planet was wiped out because of resources unknown, but resources nonetheless.
Still unknown.
And he wants to, 1, find out what the resources are, 2, find out who the resources are being stolen by, and 3, why ultimately they're doing that.
Yeah.
So I totally understood why he was doing it.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. I mean, it didn't play into the whole Jixtus Grix thing until the 3rd novel. And so, this was like quarter into the second novel.
That is my one complaint with the prequel trilogy. I mean, it did set everything up. Like everything was like all the shit that you're like, why the fuck is it like this? It you know shot it down one after the other of like, this is from the first book. That's why this was here. So I mean, they could have been spread out a little bit more, but whatever.
Did Zahn have this all figured out beforehand, or do you think he sort of fit the puzzle pieces in later?
I honestly would say that this one more so than the original trilogy was probably planned out better. I mean, it had to have been, especially with like how much detail he got into in essentially the same amount of pages as the last trilogy. Whereas the last trilogy, there was a lot, but there really wasn't too much to it. Whereas this, I mean, we essentially learned an entire fucking culture minus their language in 3 books.
Yeah, their socio-political machinations and everything. Like, it got way detailed.
Fucking love that.
But to that point, it wasn't exhaustive. Like, I mean, I'm coming from a position of I just love socio-political things anyway, because that's humanity, and I'm a fan. And so even if I don't necessarily like what my people, whatever that means to you, are doing, I can still appreciate the motivations, no matter how hollow they may be, and equally for any other sides that there may be. I just love the exploration of human experience, and that's why I can understand it. And so what Zahn did with these 2 trilogies, and arguably the first trilogy, the prequel trilogy, not so much the sequel, was to explore those socio-political machinations and arguments and rivalries and historical issues, and like it created this entire generational conflict told in a single trilogy that is as full of depth and mystery as Dune, for fuck's sake. Like, it was really crazy. Readable. As what?
Except this is readable. I've tried, man. I've tried. I just can't do it. It's so hard. It's probably because I'm stupid, but man, it's so hard.
I've actually never read it. I feel bad saying that, but
it's, from what I hear, once you get into like the 5th and 6th book, it's great.
I don't want to.
Yeah,
no, I don't want to. That's too much time to invest. I don't know, because the puzzle pieces that Zahn had to fit together. In the first trilogy, he just looked at what he did in the past, and then he compared it to what was done in Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon, and then he was like, okay, this is my boundaries. This is how I'm going to frame this character within those boundaries.
Yeah.
But he never explained any of this Chiss stuff in the original, the EU content that he went into in that prequel trilogy. This is like whole new ground. And I remember when they were having the military tribunal for Thrawn, I was like, we know where he's going to end. And then it like the chapter, the chapter before the final chapter, I can't remember what the word is. Anyway, the general was like, he's gonna be pissed because I'm the one who sent him, to exile. I was like, you son of a bitch! How could you do that?
Right.
And then the final chapter plays out, and you're like, oh, okay, well, he was in on it. Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly. That was the real kicker. Was like, holy fuck, this son of a bitch planned it from the get go. God damn it, he got us again.
Like the moves that he is having Thrawn take, so many in front of everyone else, and then playing it out for all the stupid readers reading it to be fooled every single time and to be like, that's amazing. How did he figure that out? Like, you got to be a smart motherfucker to do that. And I appreciate that. Like, not every author is a smart motherfucker. Most of them are fucking stupid. Being fair.
Well, and God, especially with new Star Wars, man, it's just... God, I really hate to bitch about this, but it's just
it to be good, though.
So bad. I wanted it to be good too. And all right, so this is a complete aside, but I got to get it out of me. Like, it's just been destroying my soul lately.
Unleash the fury, man.
So I went through the High Republic series. You know what? Fuck it. Here's my review of the High Republic series.
Shit. Bonus.
It's just garbage. Like, it's like, okay, you know, this is great. This could be the new thing. This is where our new trilogy is going to be. And here's the same old Jedi doing the same old bullshit for the same old reason. Hey, did you watch episode 1, 2, and 3? Cool. Well, here's that again, but 300 years in the past.
Oh, wow.
But it fucking sucked. And it was so hard to read. Like, it was like reading a children's novel.
Oh, my God.
Which is fine. I can read children's novels and enjoy them when they're children's novels. This was supposed to be adult novels, and it just read so fucking stupid. Wow. And like everything's spelled out. It just, I felt dumber having read through them. And then once I finished,
wow,
technically the third one, but really the fourth one, because the whole Lorna D thing, like there's an Audible book of it that's just Audible right now.
Oh, okay.
I got done with it. I'm like, fuck, do I just not like reading anymore? And then I started Anne Rice, and then it's like, oh wait, no, I do like reading. I just like good books, not garbage.
That's interesting because Claudia Gray's Lost Stars, I think, is one of my top 5 Star Wars novels of all time. Yeah, and Charles Soule's comic run is awesome of Vader.
That's the thing. I don't get it. Because, yeah, everything else that they've done Star Wars related is phenomenal.
Okay.
Like, seriously, like Soule's Star Wars shit, like that's the last Star Wars comic book that I bought that I've been like, fuck yeah, this is amazing.
Way good.
And it's so funny, too, because I stopped giving a shit about Star Wars comics because they stopped being good. Looking at the New Republic Star Wars comics, the High Republic, rather, those are good. But the novels were just dumb as fuck.
Oh, wow.
There's a rock, for fuck's sake.
Right.
A rock that's a pilot.
What?
And has love interest, but never speaks. It's just...
What?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody look up Geode.
It's a rock that has a love interest?
He's a fucking player, dude. He's always flirting with people.
What?
And yeah, but you never
just, like,
see it. It's always like...
Or...
You kind of see it after the fact.
Okay.
And it's fucking so goddamn stupid.
That's weird.
Yeah, don't.
That's the type of fucking trope that authors are just like, hey, I'm going to jerk off. You guys want to watch? And they're like, yeah, it's creative. People will watch it. I'm going to jerk off.
That's so
like, that's all that is. That makes no sense. All right.
Luke Skywalker spent like 3 chapters in The Fate of the Jedi speaking to monoliths. And that was riveting. It was amazing. It was like, God damn, look at this beautiful force power within these sentient beings. And then there's a fucking slab of rock in this that's
weird,
trying to get laid. It's
weird.
Star Wars has fallen.
Just fucking weird, man. We need to revisit our strangest Star Wars moments or whatever that episode was.
Yes, we do.
Because
there's been so many since.
we're on new fucking playing ground here. All right, back to Thrawn.
Yeah, back to Thrawn, the good stuff.
Ish, yeah. Well, and here's the thing: is like because I only knew the original Thrawn trilogy, I was like, not the EU, but in canon Thrawn trilogy. I was like, no, this is great. Like, we get Thrawn again. That's awesome. And I hated how it ended, as I already mentioned in Rebels, but still, we still get Thrawn,
Yeah.
And then I read the prequel trilogy, and I was like, wow, this is so much better. Like, yeah, it doesn't quite feel like Star Wars, but still, you can tell the author is, like, working it. He is putting in the hours to make this entire ball of chaos fucking fit together flawlessly, and then we get to follow those little strings along, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Maggies, because in the second novel, Thrawn is in the third novel. Thrawn is rescuing the Maggies from herself, really, and then ultimately she learns battle meditation. It seems through the use of tapping into this.
She sort of had that from her introduction, though, because they had to stop her from sending out the command for all her people to kill themselves, which she wasn't doing.
But she was saying that she could actually see further into the future by using the Skywalkers as a conduit.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
So that was what I was referencing as far as battle meditation. She was able to, like she could command her people 100%. Like she was in control of the Force in that aspect.
Yeah.
But she had the ability, like Skywalkers, in order to travel through hyperspace, they can see a couple jumps ahead and they can alternate courses accordingly. But with the Maggies on their side, they can see a lot further ahead. Not days, but minutes, which in a battle makes all the difference.
Oh, yeah.
And so the Grisk are trying this sort of bad guy entity that no one knows anything about. It's sort of the reimagined Yuuzhan Vong as is being described, but we never get that.
Yuuzhan Vong, though, we see. Like, we understand where they came from, and they're like everything about them pretty much. Yeah. These guys, we get a name.
Yeah. Well, and they like to be covered up, so we don't know what they look like. It's like a big cultural secret. Another thing that I really like about Zahn is that the new cultures that he brings out, the new species, he really works on it to make them interesting rather than just throwing a fucking face on them and saying, no, it's a new alien or something. I really like that about
Shield.
Yeah. It's a rock that's horny. What do you want? I don't have much more time than that. So I really appreciated that. But it was just really interesting that, this was a technology. It's not even a technology. This is a cultural mistake that these two cultures coming together could then exhibit this very Sith-like ability, Force-like ability. And yet they didn't know how to sort of wrap their heads around it. No one understands the Force in this outer space, and this wild space area, like the inner galaxy knows it. Which that's another sort of problem that I have with all of this, is that it doesn't make sense that the Force, whether it's tossed aside by Han Solo or whether it's fully adopted by Jedi, it still is known about all throughout the galaxy. And yet you have the Outer Rim and everyone's like, what are you talking about? That's weird. We have kids that do some magical stuff, but that's kind of it. It just didn't fit for me. Like, if you're in the universe,
I don't know. We kind of get that though, like even in the original movies though, because if you look at the separation between episode 3 and episode 4, that's 18 years.
No, that's fair.
Everything is different.
Yeah. Your ancient religion. Yeah. Okay. But still. You can always win an argument by saying, but still.
Agreed.
But still.
You got me there, fucker.
Yeah, but still. So, I don't know. Like, I really appreciate that. And okay, so my point of bringing all this up, I keep deviating because I'm fucking drunk, is that the Maggies is not a friendly thing. Like, she's acting friendly in the second book and the third book, kind of. But in the end of the third book, she turns almost like evil. Like, we get this sense from the Grisk, from Jixtus talking, that how long is it going to be until she turns against you or something like that? Like, like you as the Chiss Ascendancy are working with these different species that don't like you, don't trust you, don't agree with you. And you're doing everything against their native will in order to get them to ensure that you personally have a future. But they're not always going to be on your side. And they have abilities that are far out of scope that you have, that you've been protecting from us. And they're going to turn on you soon. Like, I got the sense, and did you get that at all? That the Maggies maybe wasn't such a good person.
Sort of. Like, it's...
Okay.
It's like, on one hand, yeah, I kind of get that could be a potential enemy later on down the road. Because, like, they built alliances with other cultures. Even their own families, because the ruling families, like, fucking hate each other. It's like there's always the potential for there to be a problem, but I mean, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that's kind of how it played out in the books. So it's like, if it's explored further, I wonder if they would end up being a problem or if they would still be homies.
Was it a cop-out for the Grix to just destroy every evidence of their being at all times? Even when they were losing and they were at the very end, they were just like, hey, everyone's got a secret pill to destroy their plane so you can't learn anything about us.
I mean, they're basically Nazis, so I get it. That's what the Nazis did.
But we still were able to like discern some information about their fucking culture. You know, like,
Well,
the Grisk is like so secretive. Like, I don't know. It felt like a cop out to me. Like, I feel like we should be able to, you know, through the Chiss, have learned more about this people.
Well, it's like I hope that Zahn's holding off to do another trilogy, and that's where we would get, you know, something aside from Thrawn, because at this point Thrawn's gone. We already know Thrawn's gone. So I hope that we actually get Chiss books and like just go a whole different direction, because I mean that's such an open area that he could do anything with. Yeah. And Disney probably wouldn't give that much of a fuck, because they're probably not going to do anything with it anyways other than books. So that's where I like to think that he was being optimistic and like, oh well, you guys will get more of the Grisk and find out what they are in future books.
I actually don't like that at all, because I want to see him on screen. Damn it.
I mean, I agree. I want to see that shit, especially like, you know, how brutal they are, because it's like, oh fuck, we're dying. Shit, let's explode. Boom. And they're gone.
And they're just all into it. Like, not one person rebelled at all. Everyone's like, yeah, no, this is the thing we have to do. Very cult.
Yeah, no, it's so crazy. Well, it's straight up, it's a cult, because like you look at the oh god, what were they? The fucking, I was just reading
the third one.
The Nick Ardoon. Like, those weren't Grisks. They were just people that were like, hey, we got captured by them, so now we're their slaves. And they were just so heavy into that shit that like people couldn't talk to them. People aren't going to listen to them unless their Grisk commander tells them, hey, motherfucker, do this.
I'm the commander. Yeah, I didn't like that, actually, at the very end. That last book when... I can't remember. This is terrible. I can't remember names at this point. But
well, honestly, a lot of the names were really hard to keep. Like, it was not quite Silmarillion level, but you kind of almost needed a notebook to reflect, oh yeah, that's who this character is.
Right. There's a character who was captured. He was one of the. So in this world, there's the Skywalkers who can do sort of hyper jumps. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. God damn it.
And no, that's right.
And then there's like this entire guild that has people who are skilled, not to the point of the Skywalkers, but they can still sort of tap into the outer...
The Pathfinders.
Yeah, the Pathfinders, where they can tap into the Force in a way with the aid of the sort of like this decompression helmet almost. I thought that was really interesting, is that it's not always innate within you. Sometimes you have to use external technology to tap into this thing, and it just add this dimensionality to access to the Force, which we had never really experienced before, which I thought was really cool. But it also meant that you can have more access to it than just being born with midi-chlorians, you know? I mean, there's other ways to tap into this thing, which I thought was kind of cool. But it was that guy. I can't doggone remember his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was on the enemy ship, and then, you know, they're all sort of drones like, well, the Jixtus is gone, the Grix are gone, or it wasn't even the Grix, it was the other. I don't even think it was the Nick Ardoon. It was the other species that the Jixtus was fucking with.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
This is the worst, because I just read this book like a week and a half ago. But
I at least got the excuse that I've got like another trilogy and 2 other books in between.
I mean, a month ago and a half.
There you go.
In 3 months.
That's believable.
Believable. Anyway, so like he just out of nowhere is like, I'm in charge. You will listen to me. And there's like, okay, I'm an automaton. I will do what you say because it's with Force.
Yeah, I hated that.
Shit like that just bugs me. And I just don't like the idea that there can be an entire species that's subjugated simply because there's a really mean person on board.
Right.
What?
Well, that's like, so with them, essentially what they would do is they would go to a planet and be like, hey guys, oh fuck, okay, god damn it, I had the name right on my tongue of what that species was, because their thing was the Enlightenment.
Yeah. They're huge in the third book, people.
Oh my
they
God.
are the big
It's
thing.
right fucking there. I can't remember what the hell they're called.
It's the worst.
Oh, that's gonna kill me.
It's funny because all of the synopses that I read about the third novel that I just read was about Thrawn finding the Star Flash, which is this technological device.
Not even that big
but that has nothing to do with the whole novel.
No, not at all. That's like you don't get that until the very end of the
and it's not even a B story. It's like a D story.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't get it. Oh my God, whatever. Anyways, we'll call them the Enlightened because that's something the Enlightened. But like they were essentially the force that would subjugate for the Grisk because they would come in so fucking brutally and be like, hey, you can either become one of us or we can fucking murder your entire planet and steal all your resources and fuck your corpses. And that's how they got them so like broken down as a people.
So one thing going against the Chiss Ascendancy, aside from inner turmoil, the socio-political machinations inside of the Ascendancy between the different houses, is that every other race out there seemingly hates them or distrusts them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recall any reason for that. Like, Chiss always looked after themselves.
It was because they're cocky assholes.
Like, that's it?
That's it.
That's why people hate me?
I mean, what else do you need for xenophobia? Like,
okay.
I mean, Christ, people hate each other here for the different colors of their skin. We're all the same fucking people.
That's a good point. I hate people that wear sweaters tied around their neck.
Those aren't people. Those are fucking monsters.
Fucking Chads. Can't handle it. Can't stand it. Fuck Chad.
Yeah.
This stupid neck sweater.
Bastards.
No, okay, I understand that. That makes sense. I don't know. It just seems weird, like in a galaxy of species. I understand, like localized, we are trapped on this ball of Earth, so we're a tribal species. We're going to hate the other people on this ball of Earth. But once we start realizing there are innumerable other species out there, kind of feel like we'd unify, at least in some way. There would still be dissent because that's our nature. But we'd have like a national, like not even national, but a galactic, I don't know, an Earth-sized fucking group or something that says what's what.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I feel like you would have to have a reason beyond just wearing a sweater around your neck or being a different color when you're talking about other species. Like, no, they eat babies, or they take their shoes off in flights, cross country. Like, that's
a big
you're a
fucking
monster.
deal.
Well, who the fuck does that?
Straight the fuck.
Like, that's a good reason to hate someone. But
I will have a broken fucking foot or toes or something. I'll keep my goddamn shoe on the whole time because I'm not a fucking monster.
You see John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles just flipping his sock off. And I just like start choking up with my asthma. Like, I can't. Foot. Right. Oh. It's the best. It's the worst of the best. So that I would understand, but like we didn't get any of that. There's nothing. It was just like, no, the Chiss, everyone hates the Chiss. And so that's why it was so shocking that Thrawn was able to sort of enemy my enemy, combine with other species against the Grisks, because these other species supposedly hated them. And that's what the Grisk was sort of hedging their bet on the whole time, not just the inner turmoil between the Chiss, but also the external turmoil between the other species that shared the same space. And it should have worked if it weren't for those darn kids. If Thrawn fucking just totally thrown mud in their eye. Was it too easy, I guess, is the next follow-up, because from our perspective, Thrawn did some things that I couldn't have figured out, but he just figured out some things. It's sort of like Sherlock Holmes-ish. Figured some stuff out, and he solved some stuff, and it was like, oh, he saved the day. Everyone's happy and healthy, and things are better. Was that too simplistic?
Yes and no.
There's a lot of space.
It is. That's a fucking loaded question. Because the thing is, he's a fucking genius.
Right.
Like, period. And we get that throughout this, like him going to see like Grisk art installations. I forget exactly what it was. But this dude knows so much about everything else that nobody else gathers. And he's just festering on that shit the whole time. And you get a little bit of that through the book. So I don't think it was unlikely that's how it was going to end necessarily. Like, I don't feel like it played out sooner than it should have.
Right.
But at the same time, that's kind of almost a cop out, just saying, oh yeah, he's fucking smart, so obviously he'd win.
Mm.
I don't know.
I do feel like that Zahn did a good job of playing it up. You know, we got to see, not just through our experience of reading it like we got with Sherlock Holmes, but we got to see it through the other characters. You know, we got to see it through the generals and through his fellow soldiers and through other civilians and political leaders. We got to see their reactions to his decision making. And that led authority to his wild nature of being a true genius, a battle genius. Because, you know, they always played up this, and this is something that actually kind of bugged me about the novels, where they play up this idea, he's a military genius, but politically he's a fucking retard. It's the same thing. It's just reading humans. I don't understand why you would be a genius in one, but a complete dope in the other.
I mean, he explained it in the book, kind of.
Whatever.
I mean, it's
I thought it was...
Okay, this is, I will say what it is, and I'm going to get fucking shit for it. But as somebody who probably is themselves, I feel like I can say this and be safe. Thrawn is autistic. There. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
I believe that's what it is because, yeah, like the one thing he clings on to, that motherfucker knows everything about it, and he's a fucking savant.
Right.
Everything else, no.
I'll buy that. That feels right. You shouldn't get any shit for that. That is just there are artistic and autistic people. Yeah, just like there are Thawns and Thrawns.
Right.
God damn it. It still is bugging me right now. Okay, I can buy that. Because then he's hyper focused on one thing, and that's all that he's thinking about. I really did like seeing those flashbacks in the third novel. And this is something about these different trilogies that we get these. You get the mainline story, and then you get these sort of flashbacks that help ultimately pay off the end point of that particular novel. But getting those flashbacks is a really nice way of adding color to Thrawn as a character, but also the different characters that are sharing the narrative story as a whole. In that final one, when he's like connecting with his brother, and I can't remember his name, who ends up dying, but they're in a coffee shop that gets mugged and attempted robbery. And his, not real brother, but his family brother goes and tries to stop it. And it ends up with him turning around and seeing Thrawn in this fighting stance, having knocked out this attempted thief trying to get away. I just thought that was a beautiful scene to sort of solidify that Thrawn is not just this weird brainiac guy. No, he's a soldier. He's been trained as a soldier his whole life. He's not concerned about rising up in the ranks as much as he's concerned about solving problems put in front of him, even if those problems are not on the popular list of problems to be solved by the military as a whole.
Yeah. And that was my biggest bitch fit with the Rebels series. Like, it was great seeing him, but like, I feel like that aspect was missed. Even though we got instances of him doing like martial arts and shit as a form of meditation, like, it's still, I feel like we never got that until these books, like in canon.
Yeah, part of what I loved about the original trilogy of Thrawn, the original canon trilogy, I don't know how to even describe it without being confusing, with the Rebel storyline, is him finding out who the traitor was in the Empire, feeding information to the Rebels. And I thought that was such a great cat and mouse story. And then they tacked on that TIE Defender story that I didn't feel like really ever paid off, and then he was sort of defeated and taken away and stuff. It was a sad ending to what was this really great setup of a character. Knowing that Ahsoka Tano in The Mandalorian Season 2 had asked about Thrawn in an episode, we know that Thrawn is coming, and there is argument and speculation that this whole Filoni-verse Thrawn is going to be the big baddie ultimately in the whole Mandalorian series with all of these other spin-off shows, series connecting to it. Are we going to see Thrawn in live action? And is he going to live up to the Thrawn that we've been delivered in books, do you think?
So first part, yes. I really do ultimately think that's where it's going to go. But ultimately, no, I think it's probably going to fall flat.
That's depressing. Why would you think that?
Because they've given me no reason to think otherwise, to be honest. Like, The Mandalorian is gold. That's it. Like, that's all they have given us live action wise. That's like, oh God, yes, this is great. Because as far as I'm concerned, and it seems like almost as far as they're concerned, Solo and Rogue One didn't happen.
It's so horrible. They were so good.
And I mean,
so good.
I will fucking die.
Rogue One was amazing. Rogue One
is the second greatest Star Wars film ever made.
I'll buy that.
Only to Empire.
100%. Yes.
Just barely.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill gladly.
Yeah.
But there's like, I don't know, I feel like such a separation between that era of Disney Star Wars and new Disney Star Wars. So I want to believe that Filoni and Favreau won't kill us that much. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know how much control they're going to have and how easily they're going to be able to pay that off. And really, how do you pay off a character like that with what were like the resources that they have? Because I mean, look at what Boba Fett, like that was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
We got Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, and that was just fucking, give me 6 episodes of that, but with the helmet on.
Yep.
My dick is going to be raw. I'm going to have to get chafing cream.
Yeah.
I might even have to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And then we got the Book of Boba Fett. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I guess ultimately, I don't know how we would pay it off because as far as Thrawn in the current canon, he is foreshadowed by the Grisk in everything that he's done. He came to the Empire to try to protect his people from the Grisk, to try to find technology to defeat the Grisk, to get the Emperor himself to then help him defeat the Grisk. In the prequel trilogy, it's all about the Grisk subterfuge and turning different species against the Chiss. It's all about the Grisk. So if you bring Thrawn in live action and you don't bring the Grisk, what's the point? And the worst part about this is we already have a sequel trilogy that exists without them. And so that means you have a period of time to operate in that's pre-First Order and post-Return of the Jedi that you can fit this entire story into to really pay off Thrawn if you actually wanted to pay him off. But can they do that in this short amount of time that they have? And I don't know if they can, to your point.
Yeah, same. Yeah, because really, if you think about it, they've only got about a 10-year period that they can play with that.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know.
That's rough. That's a short amount of time, especially when you focus about how we last left him in narratively in the timeline, with him being taken away by Ezra Bridger and the space whales. I don't know, like where were they taken? How long were they there? What was going on when they were there? What the fuck is happening with the Grisk? Are they clearly they've still been like working their little brains in the outer regions in wild space, messing with the Chiss. Have they been successful? Like, what if they have already infiltrated the Chiss species again? Because we saw how fragile their connection was with each other between the families, which I loved so much.
Yeah, definitely. That was so goddamn
It was like, for the George R.R. Martin fans out there, it was very much Game of Thrones in Star Wars. It was really, really cool. But to have that sort of fragility in an entire species who is supposed to be like the alpha species in that area of space, it's nice to know that they can be corrupted and taken over from the inside if necessary. But
and so easily.
Yeah, and if it weren't for Thrawn and the other commanders that were just sort of deferring to him, now that he's not there after so long, like, are we going to find a Yuzong Vong situation where the Grisk come in, take over and then invade inner space, you know, the sort of the galaxy, the inner galaxy. I would like to see that. I don't know how you're going to do that in a series, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
and I guess keeping it separate, because this, this is, so this would be taking place episode 2 to episode 3. So I mean, they got plenty of time to fuck with that and not mess with anything. Right?
What do you mean episode 2 to 3? Like right?
Well, because like right now in the Ascendancy, like, so if they continued with the Ascendancy trilogy,
right,
like they branched off that to show, like, say the Grisk infiltrating the Chiss and slowly taking over like this family and trying to ultimately take over their section of the galaxy. Like, they got plenty of time to play with it.
For sure, but that's like 20 years though. We've got like Ahsoka Tano's 5 years after Return of the Jedi, still looking for Ezra, who is supposedly with Thrawn at that time. Mm-hmm. So that's like 20 years, 25 years of what's been going on.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that's my big complaint, because when they bring Thrawn in, which I think they will inevitably, he's going to have to be in a position of absolute authority. Otherwise, why would you bring Thrawn in?
Yeah, right.
And then if he's in that position, how did he get there in that time? And what happened to Ezra? And were they working together against the Grisk, against the, fighting for the Chiss? And then are we going to just miss all that? We're not going to get a taste of, like there's so much. I want to see that conflict. I don't care about Ahsoka Tano finding Ezra and bringing him back to the galaxy. I want to see Thrawn dealing with the threat that he was the only person that could stave off, and then only temporarily.
Right.
I mean, fuck, they set him up to be this wonderful, wonderful, bad and good character. Ultimately, I think he's good. It's just self-interest.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, is like the Thrawn in the original EU, he was evil. Like, that's the vibe I got. I never thought he was a good guy.
Really?
Yeah, ever. Reading these two trilogies, I totally feel like he's a good guy. You felt differently?
I mean, he was a part of an empire that he believed in that had fallen, but he refused to let it completely die off. I mean, he was so charismatic that he essentially had people still following him even after he died. Like, we get the Hand of Thrawn duology. Like, there's aspects to him that live throughout the legends even after he died, because he had that much of an impact on people. Right. So I don't know. I can definitely see where you're coming from, though. Like, this is, with these, we got, here is Thrawn, a man, and the duality of man, essentially. Whereas with, of course, the original trilogy, the Heir to the Empire trilogy, it's more so, Empire bad, Rebels good.
Right. I just realized we were over an hour already. What do you think about the EU Thrawn that we knew and loved comparing to the new canon Thrawn? Do you think they can hold up to each other? Do you think one is better than the other?
That's a fucking question. I mean, they both have their place. Like, I still, Heir to the Empire, like, that trilogy is always gonna hold a special place in my heart, and I fucking love that character. Like, there's a song I have on my phone of him that I listen to constantly because he's such a badass. But these books weren't that bad. Like, we didn't really talk much about the first trilogy, so the sequel trilogy, because really there's not much to say. It's Thrawn rising from when he was discovered till the end when he goes off with Ezra. That's really about it. So that one, I would say, if you're gonna read it after the Ascendancy novels, because the Ascendancy novels, like, I love that fucking character.
Yeah.
Like, he added such a depth to that character that it's almost like falling in love again.
Yeah, he's great.
Like, he was just so goddamn good.
I can't help but compare him. Like, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did so well with Sherlock Holmes. I really feel like Thrawn is Zahn's Sherlock Holmes. Like, he's so good at deducing motive and decision making based on cultural artifacts. But that's just not something that's played off as like a trope. You know, it's actually earned throughout the length of the storytelling, and we get to see different cultural descriptions, because ultimately, you know, Thrawn is trying to teach his fellow soldiers and officers how to think the way he does, and he gets a little frustrated when he's not given that opportunity.
Yeah.
When he's like, okay, well, why do you think this is? And he's always asking questions to help them arrive at the answer in a very Socrates way of instructing. I even said that wrong. But I love that idea of teaching through questioning and finally coming to the answer through those question answer sessions. I didn't really get that in the earlier Thrawn novels. Again, it was a long time ago that I read them, and so maybe I just don't remember properly. I appreciate the Ascendancy version of Thrawn more than I like the sequel trilogy of Thrawn or the EU of Thrawn, actually.
Yeah, no, it's a much deeper character
thing to say.
No, I agree. Basically, like it was so much deeper because this was him.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, focused on like everybody else. Like we didn't even get into Cheery and her caregiver.
Cheery's
like
great.
Those were the fucking stars of the books, as far as I'm concerned. Just plain and simple. But like even with so much attention paid to other people and the Ascendancy as a whole, like Zahn was able to delve into the character so much deeper and just make him human. So yeah, it was done well.
Yeah, I think ultimately we would both recommend the Ascendancy trilogy to anyone who wants to learn more about Thrawn. I mean, and not just because of Thrawn, because of the Chiss people themselves. You get to know about the different houses, the different leaders, the different representatives, and different just individual soldiers that are happen to be in those families, and the dichotomy between the military side of it and the political side of it, and how that echoes with our own human experience. And that's what I love so much about it, is because it's so rich, it's so detailed, but not overwhelmingly so. And I can't tell if it's not overwhelming because I am into politics or if because it's just written well.
See, and that's hard too, because like I was thinking about that myself after finishing these. It's like they're great books. There's no argument there. Like Zahn, when he's allowed to just run and play by himself, fantastic. Like the dude is great. Like there's a reason why he's been around for as long as he has. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like that kind of shit makes my nipples hard. So it's like, am I just liking this because this is the kind of shit I'm into, or is it that fucking good? I would argue that it's just that fucking good.
I'd like to think that.
Yeah, it's definitely Ascendancy. Like if you guys are looking to check these out, read the Ascendancy trilogy.
Yeah.
If you like those and you feel like it, go ahead and read the other Thrawn series. It's good. It really is. And some of my favorite stuff with the sequel trilogy is the stupid back and forth between him and Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, because we get both sides of that.
Yeah.
So I do really enjoy that. And then of course Palpatine's always a fan favorite, but it's Ascendancy's where it's at. The other one, it's just more like, it's sort of like popcorn.
Yeah.
It's fun, it's delicious, it's somewhat nutritious, but it's not a meal.
It is kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. It is kind of fun following Thrawn's frame of thought when he realizes that Vader is Anakin. Like just sort of trying to play those, and it happens in the second novel, I think, when he's like Anakin is off looking for Padme, and Thrawn is like experiencing that, and then later in the final one, he is having this sort of flashback moment when he's going on a mission with Vader, talking about Skywalker as a general and having that shared experience, and Vader's like, I don't know what you're talking about. That was totally not me.
Yeah, that show was fun.
It's just, I love that sort of unraveling unpeeling that onion and like, oh shit, because no one else in the galaxy did that. No one had a clue, and it should have been so fucking obvious. the superstar of the Jedi who is winning every battle and just the renegade. He's just like
greatest pilot alive,
kicking everyone's ass, taking names. Suddenly he just disappears, but then this other evil entity comes out of nowhere and just dominates the entire galaxy. Huh? Who could that be?
Right.
Of course it was fucking Anakin, you dummies. But what are you gonna do? Oh well, he had a black hat on, so what do you who can see past the hat?
It's true.
All right. That's all I had for this. I don't even know how to frame this. That's Thrawn.
It is hard because the thing is, there's not a lot of talked about, but we could go on for hours talking about this.
Obviously. Yes. Yeah.
It's quite the conundrum.
I would highly recommend these novels. Thrawn is a very interesting character, and in Star Wars, there's not a lot of really in-depth characters. It's a lot of surface stuff, a lot of sort of human experience, fable tropes. George Lucas went after the, sort of the Joseph Campbell hero of 1,000 names type story trope. And it paid off for the original trilogy. But the truth is it's only as in-depth and detailed as the authors that follow that and add to that history. And I think there is no one that is even close to Timothy Zahn in that aspect. He has added real storytelling and real depth of world building to Star Wars on par with the original trilogy or more as far as, narrative culture is concerned, because that was all surface bullshit in the trilogy. The hero with 1,000 faces is as old as we are a human species. So there was no new ground being unturned, and he leaned on Japanese filmmakers and Western hero tropes in order to tell his story. So yes, I desperately love the original trilogy more than anything that's ever been done by George Lucas, but wasn't original.
No.
Zahn, however, that whole original prequel trilogy of the Chiss, that was impressive.
Yeah,
that's a lot of work.
Like the only other person that's come close has been, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but the one that essentially developed Mandalorian culture and the language and all that stuff.
Oh, really?
God damn it! Why can't I think of her name? Hold on, give me a second.
Look on your shelf.
Yeah,
it's this one.
Oh God! Well, I was thinking if I saw some names, it would trigger my memory, but I can't. But yeah, like Zahn definitely. Like, there's a reason why this motherfucker has been there from day one.
Yeah.
And is still there. Like, I honestly don't think Star Wars would be what it is without Timothy Zahn.
He's great. I highly recommend it, everyone. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, we definitely got it.
All right, people. Well, thank you so much for tuning in live or watching after the fact. We would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button, and share the videos if you like what we're doing here. These regular monthly episodes, again, it's in the name, they're once a month. Whenever there's a series out, we're going to do those weekly episodes to talk about review those individual episodes. Obi-Wan Kenobi's coming up. After that, we're going to have Bad Batch. We're going to have Andor, that series is coming out. So there's a whole lot of Star Wars TV series coming out, and there's even rumor that the Rogue Squadron film that I can't remember her name was going to release. It was sort of shifted and canceled. Well, it seems to be back on for next year.
Oh man, that'd be fun.
2023. So if that's true, then we're going to have an actual live action movie, which is going to be super crazy and exciting. And we're definitely going to be talking about that in the run up to it. And of course, after it's been released. So lots of great Star Wars stuff to talk about. We welcome you to join us in the conversation. Let us know what you think. Thank you again. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Warrior's fortune be with us all.
It's weird when I click the button and nothing happens. They just took it.
Damn it. What the hell have you got?
It's the Tron Trilogy. Lots of neon.
The weird, scary Jeff Bridges. I couldn't watch it.